Hey everybody, welcome to another Monday Q&A, number 6, I believe. Remember, you can submit your questions for the following week during this week's video in the comments section below, and let's jump right in. So, Montasir Ziti, are you going to watch all the matches of the 2018 World Cup? That's my plan. I hope to watch every single match. That's usually what I aim for every World Cup when it rolls around. I try to watch every single game. Blind Biker 23, have you ever considered setting up a Patreon for this channel? Yeah, I have. I think once my channel continues to grow, maybe once I get around maybe 2,000 subs, I'll start opening up the possibility for something like that. Uh, that's the end goal for me. I'd like to get Patreons and hopefully maybe some sponsors or something. Um, so yeah, I love the content, by the way. Thank you. And yeah, thank you for the support as well. I really do appreciate that. H. Huss, who has succeeded more in their respective sport, LeBron or Messi? Oh, it's LeBron. I mean, 3 NBA titles. That's the biggest title in all of American basketball. Maybe and also Olympic gold with the Team USA. I think that Messi's only won one or two youth tournaments back when he was a young kid, but he hasn't won anything at the senior men's national level with Argentina. So it's LeBron who has achieved more, uh, well succeeded more with their respective national teams at least. But I mean, you look at Messi's accomplishment at the club level: Champions Leagues, Copa del Rey's. So I think that La Liga titles, it depends what you choose to weigh and what you choose not to weigh. If it's just Argentina, they who must not be named, then it's LeBron James. Danny Arefi, what do you expect to happen for the Morocco versus Iran match? I don't think there's going to be a winner, but I do think that even though they are the two best defensive teams from both Africa and Asia respectively, they can't afford to play the way that they've been throughout qualifying. They have to open up, have to go for the 3 points. I actually expect a wide open game that could be the polar opposite of the Iran Nigeria game from the last World Cup, which was a 0-0 draw. Um, so I think we could see like a high scoring 2-2 or even a 3-3. Miguel Mendez, do you think Liverpool can win the Champions League? Well, once you go this far, you have a certain belief that a team can go all the way. I mean, they're in the Final Four, the semifinals. They got the semifinal opponent that everybody wanted compared to Bayern and Real Madrid. They should get to the final, and then if they come up against Bayern Munich, look, my Bayern team hasn't been very convincing this year, so Liverpool can absolutely win it. If they go up against Real Madrid, I just think that's not a good matchup for Liverpool. I think they'll get found out. Um, but once you reach this stage, there's all it takes is just 270 minutes. You're 3 games away from winning it, and I think Liverpool with Klopp, I think they can win it. I don't think they will. Thomas, do you support any Egyptian team? Yeah, Al Ahly, the most successful club in African history. Al Ahly got to the final last year in the African Champions League. We lost to Wydad Casablanca of Morocco. Sami Kiani. Niko Kovac will be the new Bayern coach. He has only coached only Frankfurt and the Croatian national team. Will his inexperience be a problem? Not necessarily. I've seen cases in the past where younger coaches can succeed, especially in women's football. Niko Kovac, I'm not familiar with his tenure at Frankfurt, but I am familiar with his tenure of the Croatian national team, which I thought was extremely disappointing. Um, the way that Croatia played in the last World Cup, I felt was their most lackluster performance in a World Cup ever since they first qualified for it back in 1998. Now, they missed out in 2010, but for all the World Cups that Croatia did qualify for, I thought their worst one was the 2014 edition. So I'm a little bit worried, but we knew that Jupp Heynckes wasn't going to be around forever. He just came back spontaneously after Ancelotti left, after it looked like Ancelotti was not going to work out for Bayern. But then with Niko Kovac, I don't know. I can't really. I would say I'm a little bit worried. I'm wondering why we couldn't have gotten better. But I just have to wait and see because Niko Kovac, him as a coach in the Bundesliga, I'm not very familiar with him. I'm more familiar with the Dortmund, with the Frankfurt team than I am with him. Dipanjan Dutoroy. Which phone camera do you use for recording? And do you use external microphone for audio? No, I use a tablet. So it's kind of like an iPad, but it's different. You can actually make phone calls on it and stuff. It's a Verizon tablet. Mark Miceli, do you think Brazil will fail to qualify for a World Cup in our lifetime? Well, it happened with Italy. To answer your question, no, I don't think. I don't think Brazil will ever fail to qualify for a World Cup. They come from the toughest region in the world in qualification, but Brazil is just the World Cup team. I don't think Brazil will ever fail to qualify. B Rob, is Peru the sleeping giant on the dark? I suppose you mean for this World Cup specifically. Sure, Peru can go on a deep run as dark horses. They're actually an excellent choice for a dark horse candidate, or at least one of them. They can get to the quarterfinals, and if they really hit their stride under Ricardo Gareca, I think that they can get even maybe to the semis, but that depends on a lot of things as well. E. Bradley, who do you think will win the next Arabian Gulf Cup? No idea, man. I mean, Oman just won the most recent one, and they didn't even qualify out of Asia. Um, I guess for an early pick, I would go with Saudi Arabia. You would think that eventually, with all the talent they have, they should win an Arabian Cup in at least the next two or three editions. In at least one of the next two or three. So I'm going to say, I guess, Saudi Arabia is my early pick. Can you do a video on a current club World Cup based on the current World Cup? Oh, interesting. So pick a club, maybe the best club from each of the countries that qualified for this World Cup, and make that into like a club World Cup, but with basically the same countries in each group, but just a club representing them instead. Interesting. ELG Gaming YT. I like that. I like that. You know what? I'll do it. I'll do it, and I'll give you a shout out in that video. Also from ELG Gaming YT, do you think Nigeria can reach the semifinals? It's going to be hard. I mean, they're up against history. An African team has never made it to the semifinals. Ghana came very close in 2010, heartbreakingly. Sure, Nigeria can do it. It just depends on other results going their way as well. I do think they're going to finish on top of their group, actually. And I do think that they should beat the second place team from Group C. So I have Nigeria getting to the quarterfinals. And then from there, just one step away. Who knows? Connor Mullen, would you ever consider making a Football Pharaoh Twitter account to post instant reactions? Oh, wow, I made a Twitter account. I didn't even notice you had a question there about that. Yeah, well, when the World Cup pops around, and even some of the Champions League semifinals later this week, I'll, you know, tweet out my in real time during the match reactions, and you guys will get to see. Arturo Vasquez. What big team do you think is going to fall in the World Cup? Well, I do think France will advance out of their group now. I think the best candidate for it for flopping in the group stage is they who must not be named. Other than that, I would say that Poland uh, are vulnerable. I would say one of the seeded teams. You look at Russia. Yeah, I know Russia is not a big team, but they are seeded as the host. You could see them as one of the seeds not advancing. So Argentina, they who must not be named. Um, Russia, and I think maybe Poland because Poland's in a very well balanced out group, so anything can happen in there. Also, as controversial as this seems, I did pick Belgium to not advance in my most recent World Cup updated predictions video, where I had England and Tunisia going through. So, Belgium is one of my picks as well. Number 4, do you know of a method of checking world rankings from different years? Example 2014 rankings. Yeah, a lot of time if you just type in, let's say, a specific month like May 2014 into the Google search bar, it'll give you the rankings from May of 2014. There's also a website. Hold on. Sorry, I had to look it up. There's a website called FIFAranking.net. I've been to the site several times. I just couldn't remember the name off the top of my head. Uh, FIFAranking.net has a good archive of FIFA rankings from the past. Jose Rodriguez, do you think Rafael Marquez will be in Mexico's squad for the World Cup this summer? If so, how many games will he play in? Well, he's been there for what, the last 4 or 5. He's a veteran defender for the Mexican national team. He had a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde performance back in 2014. He broke the deadlock for them against Croatia in that final game with scoring off the header off the corner kick. But on the same token, he gave away that penalty in the round of 16 against the Netherlands. I know a lot of people say that's not a penalty. Maybe it wasn't a penalty, but still, he gave it to the Netherlands. Rafael Marquez, I would take him to the World Cup, but I would take him as a reserve. I do not allow him whatsoever to premiere in the starting lineup because I think that Mexico sort of needs to move on from him, and he needs to move on from Mexico as well. It's the same situation with Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Sweden. Take Marquez because I think he still has something to contribute to the team, but I would put him on the reserves, maybe in the 23-man lineup. Maybe bring him on as a sub in the last 10-20 minutes of a game, or you bring him on, you start him in the lineup, you take him off by halftime or something, and maybe starring for no more than 1 or 2 games. The Donny Soldier. What player do you want to win the World Cup because they deserve it most? What player do I want to win the World Cup because they deserve it most? Messi. Messi. I think Messi has the unfortunate consequence of having been born in Argentina and being surrounded by a team that instead of accentuates his best abilities, rely on him in a sort of handicapped relationship. So it's the opposite of what Neymar has with Brazil, because Brazil brings the best out in Neymar, and Neymar brings the best out in Brazil. Now Messi, and it's not Messi's fault at all, doesn't bring out the best in Argentina. If anything, all the traffic, all the concentration, all the dependency is flowed into Messi, especially from the midfield, and they just rely on him too much. It's very possible Argentina would not have qualified for the World Cup without him. I'm leaning towards yes, they would not have qualified. They would not have qualified without him. Saving them that final match day against Ecuador with that hat trick. So Messi deserves better. He deserves to have a better team. Sorry, they who must not be named. Uh, so I would like to see Messi win a World Cup. Ginger L, top five best kits and worst five. Well, I haven't had the opportunity to look at the kits for the World Cup, which is what I'm assuming you're referring to. I haven't had the opportunity to look at the kits yet. The Donny Soldier, what is the worst goalkeeper mistake you've ever seen? Well, if you're English, I hate to invoke bad memories, but the whole Robert Green fiasco for England back in 2010 was, yeah, that was quite special. I'm not complaining because it did give my U.S. team the equalizer that we needed. Um, so yeah. Zolo, thoughts on Wenger leaving Arsenal? Do you see him coaching France national team in the future? I don't see him coaching France. Maybe he will, because if this is Deschamps' last tournament, you have to think Arsene Wenger is a good shout uh, on the short list to get the managerial position for the French national team. Maybe. And my thoughts on him leaving? Well, I'm surprised because he's been teasing a leave for at least the last 5 or 6 years. He hasn't left, and it was always very doubtful that he was going to leave. But now that he's actually confirming that he will leave the end of the season, look, it's an end of an era for Arsenal. I mean, he's been there since what, 1996, 1997. It's probably long overdue because despite what he's done for them, winning the EPL, getting them to a Champions League final, I feel like Arsenal should have dispatched with Wenger a few years ago. So this seems like it was something that was inevitably going to happen, but it's a little bit too little, too late. H Hus, do you watch baseball? No, I don't watch baseball. I can't. I can't get into it. Uh, Bob Mama, question: are you Muslim? I'm not. No. Um, I'm a Coptic, which is well, if you're Egyptian, I'm sure you know what that is. But for other subscribers, Coptic is basically it's like a minority of Christians that live in Egypt. It's like 10, 15% of the population, I think. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm Coptic. Um Goran, do you think NBA champions should play basketball club World Cup with champions from other continents, same as UEFA doing in football? That'd be pretty cool to see, but I'd have to do some research on who's the best basketball team from each continent. Um, Not just best national team from each continent, but best club, so to speak. But to be honest, I think the very, 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 very likely result would be a team from the NBA winning it. Most likely, the Golden State Warriors. Uh, Tanner Wilson, besides Wolverhampton Wanderers, what other teams will receive promotion to next season's EPL? Well, Tanner Wilson, I think other than the Wanderers, you look down at that table, um, from basically Middlesbrough and Millwall down, they're too far gone. They have like a what, at least a 10, 12 point deficit from Millwall, Middlesbrough, from the rest of the pack. So other teams that are close to Wolverhampton in the table that have the best chance of being promoted. Again, Wolverhampton has already been promoted. I would say Cardiff. Um, Aston Villa is in there with a shout. They seem to be like an every other year kind of EPL team. Maybe Fulham can get in there as well. So Aston Villa, Fulham, and Cardiff, which is basically what the table looks like right now. Because you look at the table under Aston Villa, Middlesbrough is 10 points behind with 72 points. So and the season's looking like it's all but wrapped up. So I think Fulham, Aston Villa, and Cardiff City are in with the best chance of getting promoted next season to the EPL. Next question. Kalunda, how do I send a question? You just submit the question on the comment section of this video. That's it. Tim F, who do you think will win the greatest Royal Rumble? Ooh, it's a WWE question. um, I don't know. Maybe we could see something like a surprise where Dean Ambrose comes back from injury and he wins it, but I'm not sure how injured Dean Ambrose is. So, you know, I'm just going to go with him as my wild card pick because he is a wild card, uh, both in that circumstance and also in personality. So maybe Dean Ambrose can come back and shock everybody. Let's see. Samuel Davidson. What's your take on the routinely solid teams of West Brom, Stoke, and Southampton getting relegated? Is it because of stagnation, poor signings, lack of improvement, etc.? Honestly, that's one way to look at it, but I think that you look at the EPL and you look at the league under it that fights for promotion and relegation, it could just come down to the fact that the EPL has become more competitive than ever before. I've said multiple times on my channel that I think the Premier League is the best league in Europe, if not the best league in the world, just because of the fact that it's the most competitive. You know, you look at other leagues like La Liga, Serie A, the Bundesliga especially, where it's very top heavy. The top two or three sides tend to dominate. And by the time you're already halfway through a season, they're miles ahead of the other teams in the points table. So I just think that it's probably not best to look at it from a pessimistic spin, more so the fact that other sides that do not routinely make it to the EPL, they're starting to catch up. So the EPL, just English football in general, is very, very competitive. You still see an influx of the best players in the world, many of them still going to England to play. I always think the EPL will be the cream of the crop. And because of that, you see scenarios where it's much more likely where teams within the EPL beat each other. Like I said, you take the EPL table any given season, the 20 teams at any given season, the top 10, 12 teams, anybody can beat each other. That's not the case in leagues elsewhere in Europe. It's simply, it doesn't happen as often. Um, Case in point, back in 2016 when Leicester City, they were facing relegation the season prior. They finished 14th in the table in the 2014-2015 EPL season. They won the damn thing the next season. How often do you see a team that is ranked 13, 14, 15, etc. in La Liga or Serie A come back and win the title the following season? I don't know if that's ever happened. So the EPL, I think, has more depth to it, and it could just be a sign that, again, it's just getting more competitive, and other teams are starting to catch up. Let's see, what else? Uh, Sutton Explorer. Another WWE question. If there was a World Cup Managers Royal Rumble, the creativity some of you have, I swear. If there was a World Cup Managers Royal Rumble, which manager do you think would win? I gave this question some thought. Um, well, we're talking physically, right? Not just like through a smart tactical kind of battle. I think I would go with maybe Oscar Ramirez, Costa Rican manager, because he looks like he's a big, stocky kind of guy. So maybe he would be able to flip some people over the top rope and eliminate them. Um, that's a nice question. Um, I don't know because it depends on how you grade these managers as far as ability to win. Or doing a Royal Rumbles match in terms of uh, grading them on the quality of each manager, or just physically real Royal Rumble, just toss them over the top rope. I guess Oscar Ramirez, because he's a big guy, he'd be pretty hard to uh, to pick up and just throw him over. So I think we'll go with Oscar Ramirez of Costa Rica. And who else could win it? Yeah, I'm going to go with Oscar Ramirez of Costa Rica. Look him up if you don't know who that is. And okay, and that's it. So I finished a few minutes earlier this week. Remember, leave a comment below, like, subscribe. I'll see you next week. You can submit your questions for next week in the comment section below here. I'll see you later today, hopefully. God willing. Until then, have a good one. Much love and peace out.